Okay, so right, it's recording. Okay, good. The recording file will be converted. Okay. Okay, well, it says there's 24 people plus there's another meetup where they're coming, but at the moment there's 5 of us, and that's good. That's fine.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
We will mute in a bit when I, well, actually we don't have to mute, but I'll give you the layout. I wrote it on my phone. Hold on. Because I've never done this before, so basically I won't be as professional perhaps as I should.
Oh, don't worry, I'm sure you'll be good.
Thanks. I've got three. I've broke this up into 3 sections because it's quite large, and I do want to cover as much as I can to make it, you know, learnable. So still there's more people joining up here, right? Okay. We will start in 1 minute, okay? Right, okay, let's start. We've got 6 people, very good. Right, okay, so let me introduce myself, and we can hold off on questions till the end of each summary, okay? So I'll introduce myself. So I'm basically a self-taught filmmaker who travels and, let's say, opportunistically makes films for myself. So what that means is that you may have met people, I don't know anyone's experience here, but as a traveler, if you've traveled or not, you may have met people that make films commercially because they find opportunities to make money when they're traveling and do small commercials for places that they go, guest houses and so on. I don't do that. I just do things for myself, okay? And what that means is that it's just stuff that makes me happy. And I happen to be talking about one that got a screening. So, you know, it wasn't really about the screening or any of that. It was just because it makes me happy. And I wanted to start by saying that the most important thing about doing this stuff, in my experience, is that you are really happy doing it and it makes you pleased, because there's a lot of trials and tribulations that come up. And we're not even talking about if you've got a budget here. And if you don't have your willpower to keep going, then it just doesn't happen. So that's really important. And if it's for fame or anything like that, money, then that should really be secondary to what you enjoy. So, you know, do what you love and love what you do, okay? So that's my initial summary. I've been doing it since 2012 when I started traveling, so 7 years or so. Okay, so this is a quick summary, and what we're going to talk about at the moment is, now I heard that they kick you off in 45 minutes, so we might have to extend or whatever, but as it's a new meetup, we can, for those joining, it's being recorded, so don't worry about it. So okay, let's go into our pre-production set. This is going to be a massive summary, and you guys can stop me at the end and ask me. I think we'll do it like this. Okay, so my first advice about anything to do with this is to travel light. Even before researching, if you travel light, there's more of a chance of it happening than if you don't travel light. So like travel light. So travel light would mean to basically have your
Please don't be rude, all right? Shut up, all right?
What you can do, you can mute yourself, because people can hear on here. So if you just go and mute, if you've got sounds in the background, and then everybody can hear this, and because we don't have that much time. So travel light, so 5 kb.
See, the thing is stuck here.
Sorry, what's stuck?
I'm listening.
On the top right, if you
I can't turn. You need to be silent, please.
But you can mute yourself if you want. Is that Nafisa?
My screen is frozen. I can hear, but I can't access this screen because it's frozen.
Okay. Right, never mind. I hope everyone can still hear me.
He's on mute now.
yeah, I hope everyone can still hear me. So let me tell you the kit. I mean, if you're someone who does this before, you'll have your kit and you're happy to carry your kit. But if you're someone who's just doing this, I can tell you to make a film from A to Z, you will need a separate sound recorder, which you can use anyone, but just go for a Zoom. It's cheap. It's £100, a Zoom H1N, and take a lavalier mic, okay, so that you can hide it on your participant, and bring your camera, bring a few lenses. You can make some B-rolls, some interesting B-rolls. I prefer fixed lenses because you get more intimate, but at the same time you could, you know, go for your variables as well. And bring underwear and bring soap, and that's about it. Don't even bother changing your clothes or wasting your weight, because of the places that you might have to go to get your films and your footages. So and bring your tripod. Bring your tripod, because there's a big difference between a professional and not professional. And one of the biggest differences that we're going to talk about, of course, is sound, having a separate sound, but then having stillness, because people can't stand shakiness. And there is systems where you have the ability to to stabilize in post-production, but just bring a tripod, you know, a nice light carbon filter tripod is fine. Okay, so the next story about traveling light is research your destination. So what you want to do is go to the roots or the history of the place, and every place you go has some kind of history and root. And I go for cultures because I'm interested. So I try to find stories. You can just go 100 years back and you can already find interesting people and things. So you can link this to anthropology, you can link this to people, you can link this to subjects in the towns or whatever, but do some research about where you're going. And trust me, off a road about, you know, like 20 minutes drive, there's going to be some stories, because, you know, globalization makes everything merge and everything. But once you're off those roads, there's always stuff around there. So it's not true that you go somewhere like Ibiza and you can't get an amazing story, or you go somewhere in France and you can't get something really super cool. So try to create some kind of a destination. So with Tribe, you saw on Tribe there was, you know, the Cognac tribes are tattooed. That's, you know, that's known in Nagaland. So as a traveler in India, you might want to go to East India, and then you know about the Nagas. Okay, you've done some research, and that's already something to go and be interested in. Okay, so right, the main thing when you go to a place is that you have to try to find a story. And like I said, the story can be the subject. Let's say the story is a woman who, I don't know, let's say women who work with their babies on their back. So it's really wide. It's really, you know, and you're in Kerala and there are women, a stonemason or something. So you already know where you want to go, and you already know kind of how you have to get there. What the trick is always the subjects and selling to the subjects, because you have to sell, you have to convince people, and you don't have a lot of time. So what I always do is I go to a village where I know there's a certain subject, and I talk to teachers. I go into schools, and I do this as a backpacker. I literally go up to schools and I try to find a teacher, and of course they're teaching English, so we're lucky there. And you explain to them that, you know, whatever you want to explain. I have to be honest with you, money usually talks, but if you don't want to use money, and you know, I do think it's a bit of a far cry to think you're going to do something like this and not spend anything. You know, you've already spent food on yourself and a car to get out there. And if one of the biggest hurdles I had was just being okay to pay people, because you're in those countries and you think, well, these people are just X, Y, and Z, but it's not true. Everybody's working, everyone needs money. If you find somebody who is willing to spend a day with you and translate or talk to you about some subjects, you give them money. So, you know, like in East India, like I don't know, I had a person from school and I just offered him to spend a day with me, you know, like I needed his translation as well, but I offered him, you know, 20, 30 pounds or whatever, and that was a lot for them. So you do have to offer people money, but you do have to make friends with people, so teachers. And then you just explain whatever it is that you're after. And like I say, this is specific about tribe. So you then have to, oh dear. Yes, people do. I'll answer that after. Good question. We're talking about someone who's assisting you. We're not talking about the person you're going to interview. And the person you're going to interview is a very different story. But you will need assistance from somebody that's local, because there is a big issue about trust in anything. And even then, when you don't have 3-4 weeks in a place, that's ideal. I'm talking about something on holiday here, so you really need trust, you really need authenticity, you need to win the hearts and minds of the person, and they can win the hearts and minds of the subject for you, okay? But you need a friend. So I explained that I want to capture history or capture a moment in time, and I'd like to, you know, this sounds really crazy, but I see it as understanding people's egos and working towards giving them what they may need, which is recognition, seeing and hearing. So you are seeing and hearing somebody's lifestyle, culture completely openly and non-attached, and trying to be as transparent as possible because you're not commercial. So you are offering and you are saying, I really would love to learn more. Please teach me about yourself, about your bloodline, about your history. Please share it so I can keep that for the world. This is my passion, no strings attached. So I mean, it sounds manipulative. You're learning about egos. I mean, this is genuine, like this is how I feel. But if you want to see it in that way, then most people respond to talking about themselves. Yeah. So you have to understand the fast way in. And then, you know, once you have that agreement with somebody and you've organized a time or a place, you can get to know them, and then you can say what you're looking for. So they might have a subject, they might have a family member, or you might have seen a subject. So with tribe, I saw a subject and I liked the subject. So I said I wanted to interview that man over there, that one right there with a wrinkly face with the X, Y, and Z. You know, it was a small village, so it's easy. You know, people know them there, so it's you have to gauge it out, but of course you need that connection. Then you just cut your deal, and like I say, the main thing is to decide on a time and a day, and then to agree on something that they would be reasonable for. And usually they'll just say, if they're like, say this guy, he was a teacher but he knew about the culture and the place, and you know, those places require tips and things like that. So yeah, if you pay the grandpa, he'll talk to you, you know. So that is basically the first section. Very, very fast run through, because I want to get to questions about that. Do you want to ask me questions, or do you want me to go to the production stage?
Can I please ask you a question?
Yes.
So yeah, basically I am making a video, but it's about my personal experience within the acting industry, and I've edited it, but I've been given a budget of £75 to use like apps or resources, but I've just used one app. But I was just curious to know, maybe you'll answer this in the production stage. I'm just curious to know what apps or resources you would recommend. I know you said tripod, sound recorder, but if you have a budget of £75
to edit,
yeah, to make it look more viewable and friendly, user friendly, and because
so
right now
you're
it
looking
looks
for
very
an editing software, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, can
Okay.
you please recommend something?
Yeah, so I'll come to that.
Thank you.
Oh, phone flying. I'll come to that. Can I have a quick look on the right hand side? Offer tips on filming yourself. I've never filmed myself apart from now. What resources or apps are good to use?
Oh, don't worry, that was me.
Oh, okay. Do people change their behavior? Of course, people change their behavior when you pay them. But you know, if you're paying a subject, they might, you know, especially in the places I was, they try and give you what you want, and when they try too hard, you know, it's not really a document style a film. You really want the behind the scenes thing, that like, and for that you need time and trust. And there's so many depths of questions and what you get into, but that's in the question part. And that also, we can talk about that side of things, but you do need to make your life as easy as possible. And if you're saying, I'm not doing this for any money, then you're limiting yourself, because you might find something where it would help them, because these people literally don't, like, compared to us, they're not running around the world, you know. So you do need to appreciate and pay them, and that's what shows love, you know, in that way. Maybe I didn't answer correctly. I would like to watch an example of your work. Yeah, you can just go to plasmproductions.com, but we can talk about that after. Okay, so is everybody, any other questions so far? Yeah, okay.
I just wondered, yeah, where are these screened? And
I've only ever had one film offered to be screened.
yeah,
and it was screened in, because I'm so busy that I haven't done hardly, I mean, I've never even thought about marketing, or I don't think like that. So this has been in I'm trying to remember the name, somewhere in East London, in some kind of museum place or theatre, like
not the one on Hoxton Street.
do you know what? Because of COVID, I stayed in Burma. So I don't even know where it got screened. Somebody wanted to go on my behalf, and I kind of gave them the address, and I literally got back about a month ago.
That's my local area.
Maybe,
So yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. So, but you don't get paid for that? Or...
No, I've never been offered. I mean, personally, I've been working on a web series, and I've just not thought about any of that stuff. Like, I don't really know about marketing very well. I mean, I could learn, and I guess, you know, but at the moment I couldn't help people right now if it came to, like, it comes on here that we go and put ourselves in competitions, but it just depends on the most important thing to actually get something done is to have a carrot on a stick. And we're going to talk about what the carrot on the stick is, because that's what enables us to produce from A to Z. So if the carrot on the stick is becoming, like, you know, shown in Cannes or winning the Nobel Peace Prize, you know, everyone's got to have their carrot on the stick, and then you know, it takes different avenues, but you still have to produce something for that. So did that answer any of your, maybe?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah,
okay, just ask me anything if you think of anything, but I'm going to move to production now, because we just don't have that much time. I don't want to lose the time. So okay, so right, we've got our deal, we've got our friend, we've got our time. Now, how do we make it look professional? Because we literally haven't done this 100 times like everyone else. So, okay, go on YouTube, study, practice. I didn't do those things, but that really helps. Like, honestly, theory is really less powerful than practice. And that's a fact. If you do something a million times, you get really good at it. So, what we can fast track on this is that when you set up your shots, you should be thinking about framing, which you should learn before, because you don't have that much time, and as new filmmakers you don't have that much experience. So you should be learning about framing, composition, rule of 2/3 or one. I'm really bad with names. You should learn, so you should learn about what looks good on your screen. You should learn about what a wide, medium, and close-up looks like, and how they're produced. And let's say you've got an interview. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up our camera with our tripod. We're going to set up our iPhone. I wouldn't suggest an iPhone, because it's nice to have bokeh, which is a kind of visual, you know, way of seeing something. We can talk about the technicals, but not in this one. You set up your iPhone or your camera, and you put your subject in view, and you set them up in the correct position, and you've practiced that. So you set them up, and then you tie them up with your mic, and you test your sound. You put your stuff in. You can do sound together with asking interviews. You can put the stuff into your sound recorder, and you can listen to the quality, and you always check your quality. You never think sound isn't important. because if you have it oversounded, it blasts and you can't use it. If it doesn't record because it's not the best sound recorder, and sometimes it doesn't record, you've lost everything. So you never skimp on certain practices. Once you've checked your sound and you've got your visual, you make sure you do it with good light as well, and you learn about that. So I shot in a darker place so that I could play with the light. So if you're photographers and you have some idea, if you're photographers, this is amazing. This is very easy for you. And then once you've got a nice composition for an interview, honestly, I even don't have two cameras, even though when you're doing an interview, it's nice to cut close up to the face and back again. I literally might use a variable and do it manually in the interview. And it does not matter that he's talking, because when you're cutting, you'll be able to override discrimination of that. You don't need a pure thing perfectly. You're going to cut that on the timeline. So if you have to sit there manually, go close up, go back again, go close up, you can do that. Okay, you can break these rules and do that for the sake of getting what you need. You do your interview and you ask some good questions, and I always ask them to introduce themselves and their background, just because you want to remember their names and you want to get them kind of, you just use it as a kind of stamp of remembering. So don't forget to ask them meaningful questions, and then you go into your questions, whatever it is, and with your questions, you're looking for something meaningful, because you want some kind of opener and closer on anything like an interview. Remember, I'm just telling you about Tribe now. You need something that's interesting. So dramatic statements are interesting, because listening to someone talking like that is boring. But if you're getting a dramatic statement or something powerful, emotionally driven, that's interesting. And so you can cut up the questions like that. And you can pull it into daily questions like, what do you do? What about this town? And you can pull it into, what does this make you feel like? How did you feel when? You can ask some questions beforehand, before the interview, and you can have these things ready on your phone. So you want to create some kind of drama, some kind of impact, and you want to decide on, so is this a moral or meaning? Is this a historical interview? Is this a day in the life interview? Is this an emotional interview? Okay. And it can be all of those as well. We can cut it, but dramatic opening moral, we've done that. And hello, this is being recorded for new people. And then we go into our B-rolls. So in our B-rolls, that's fun, because one day is interview and the next day, or however long you want, is B-roll. And you've got to remember what you've been talking about with this person. Oh, I'm really sorry. I've actually gone into okay, so yes, B-roll. So we're going to go into wide, medium and close-up shots, and you're remembering what you've spoken about. So with your conversation, you're remembering, oh, he talked about this, or she talked about that, or they explained this thing, and can you show me that? And you're making mental notes, so you're putting the notes on your phone as you're interviewing. So your next day is collecting all your footages to collaborate with that interview and building up layers of this picture. So you're always working when you're it's like your job is never, you cannot relax on this situation. You're always thinking one step ahead. So what I want to say is that when you're interviewing and you set your camera up and you're rolling, of course you're checking your stuff, but your B-roll is something that you can produce easily now, even with no experience, if you have certain rules: composition, stability, tripod, and your 10-second rule, which is just to hold that thing still for 10 seconds or have it record for 10 seconds. And there are things you can capture that work, even if it's a still shot with the wind blowing through the reeds. That's beautiful. Or even if it's a kid walking in the shot and out the frame, that's beautiful. You can even be like to the kid, come back and walk through. You can make fun, you can play with people, and you can interact with people. Okay, you can set up shots. It doesn't have to be all documentary style. It can be a bit of docu-film. Okay, so you create ambience through your B-roll. You really try to show, because the viewer, you've just spent however long traipsing to wherever you're going, but no one gets that. So people want to know, how is it? What does the sun look like at this time of day? Or what's it like in a day in the life? So you spend a day walking around, getting your wide, medium, and close-up shots. And we can talk about that later. And camera's still there. Okay, and then the most important thing to get this done, because your work never ends, is that you must get a transcription. So if you're doing something in English, it's different. Or if you've got something in your own language, you can transcribe. But if you are working with somebody in the middle of nowhere and you're giving them 50 quid or 10 quid or whatever it is, and you have this stuff, and then don't get too friendly. Don't forget, you've constantly got to get what it is you want, and what you need is a transcription. And if you don't want to bring your laptop, because that is such a traipsing thing to carry around, when you've got heavy stuff, you're not going to want to go in the middle of nowhere to get your footage. So what you can do is you can just go on your SD card, run it on, you know, something on your phone, and get your footage on your phone, and you could work with your translator then and basically get them to give you a breakdown. And you can literally, the most important thing is to time code it. And so you can time code it manually by seeing that this clip between, you know, 1 minute and 1 minute 10 says this, and you don't want to break more than 7 seconds because the amount of text. But you can do full sentences is fine, but you can get that time coded and you can put it on your phone with your translator. So it's really important not to forget that. Your film will be in the bin if it's in a different language and you can't translate it. Then you've got to keep it really short, really sweet, and really crisp. You can think in your mind, is this good enough for what I need? If you start going into a 2-hour interview, how are you going to transcript that? And honestly, the viewer really just wants a little taste of something. It depends on the story, of course, but you know, you just don't want to overwhelm yourself, because the most important thing here, actually, it's the journey and producing something at the end, because it just gives you so much incredible belief in yourself and understanding that you can create anything. And it's a lot, like I say, it's a lot more than just trying to win an award. I mean, those things all come, the award thing is the very end thing. The first thing is just facing fears that we have to talk to people or to be seen a certain way. You know, none of that really matters. Like, if you can produce something at the end, even just on holiday on your phone, or you know, you're winning because you move to the next step. Okay, so we're at 12:30. I'm trying to, okay, does anyone have any questions on the production?
Just one, what type of tripod with the stand would you recommend? Because some people buy tripods and then after a couple of weeks or so they break, and yeah.
Yes, I mean, YouTube's great for this. So you have like comparisons, and I go for Siru, which is like I get the carbon fiber one. So it's very light. I weigh everything before I travel. Like, I've got a weighing scale and I really list out everything. So sometimes I go for 1.1. If it's got the tripod head, I'll accept 1.1 kilograms. But if not, then it's got to be under a kilo on tripod. So it just depends. But I do suggest you go for the Siru V5 video tripod head, or is it V1? Because that thing, the tripod head is really useful. But honestly, on your first one, tripod head's heavy, and you really only want a tripod head if you're going to actually follow something around. So if you just really are worried about the weight, don't bother about a tripod head, it's fine. And you just go for a serious standard ball head is fine. Any other questions?
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. And now we'll go to the post-production, and then at least we will have completed this, and then we can go, then maybe any of this makes sense or not, doesn't matter. Okay, so post-production. Right, we now are going to talk about what do we do with our footages. What we do is we can go for free software, depending on what we use. If you've got an Apple, you can go for iMovie, all right, and that's free. And then you can upload your software on there. I use Final Cut. Okay, it's only £300 on Apple. I know that there are other free softwares on PC because people have asked me and they've been using them. I'm not sure what they are. Like Movi, there's another one. You guys can look it up, but there are free softwares, and you can just upload your footages in there and learn how to use them. Or I can obviously teach on Final Cut. right, then we've got, you put your stuff on a timeline. It's called a timeline, and you create an assembly cut and you see everything. And what you'll be doing is you're putting your first layer, which is your interview, and then you'll be layering that with your B-roll. So you, anything on a layer kind of hides what's underneath it. So you'll start to see a kind of story come together. But before you do any of that, the most important thing to do is to cut according to your transcription. So remember, you did a transcription with your interviewer, with your helper. What you would do is you would lay this transcription out like a script, and then you would read through and highlight meaningful statements, and then you can move it around so long as you've got the time code. So like he might say something much later on that's really amazing, like you know, I had a dream that I was flying and I saw my grandsons under me and they were hunting cattle. And it's like, what on earth? Like, okay, that's an opener or something. So you'll only know this when you read through, and then you move this stuff around, and you move it with the time code so that you know which part of the project it's in, and then you cut. So once you've got your sound bites, you cut out the rest of the stuff you don't want. And then you place your footage with your sound bites, which have to be synced, which is another discussion, on the timeline. And then once you've done that, you can put your B-roll on, and then you're starting to see a film. The most important thing is your story. And your story is not something, most people say create a script and then go and film. For what we're doing, that's super restrictive. It's limiting. You really have to co-create with what's going on around you when you're on holiday, wherever you are. So there's no point in having a script. You just work things out in the whim, in the moment, what you feel, and through questions. And then you take those questions and then you break them up on your timeline after. Okay, so I'm giving you an interview guided version. Hold on, assembly roll. You then grade your footage. You can grade in your project, in these softwares, you can do so much. You can play with sound, you can grade, change color, that means, and you can basically bring it up to an industry standard with this software. So you can even stabilize. Most films are cut on, okay, like Premiere, Adobe, otherwise DaVinci, they'll use that, but I don't use any of that. And then, you know, you want to subtitle your stuff if it's in a different language, and you can do that on your software, and then you export it out. And then if you like what you've got after you've been speaking to lots of people about feedback, because that's really important, then you consider, like, I mean, I wouldn't even, for me, I don't go for competitions just yet because it's very restrictive, but you can find something that meets the avenue of what it is that makes you happy, and then move towards that. So, you know, there are competitions or there are screenings. There's like Pause TV. They're always looking for new films. So, okay. It's been a really rushed thing because I know Zoom kicks you off in 45 minutes, but you do have a complete A to Z here. And now I am totally open to any question anyone's got.
Hi, sorry, I have another question. If I give you my email address, would you be able to recommend a link for the tripod and
yes,
and the app, please? I can add my email.
Can you message me separately
on Meetup?
Yeah,
no thank you.
Just message me what it is you want.
Lovely, thanks.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Yes, it's very, very vast, very big, and I'm sorry if it's maybe not clear or what has been expected. Maybe you guys can like help me to hone in on particulars or extrapolate on certain things.
Yeah, so I get told when you're filming, some producers like you to film in a landscape, but the only issue with that is that with portrait, I feel as though you can capture everything. With landscape, it's a bit limited. Yeah.
I mean, you would normally film in landscape. You do have to film like that because everything's compatible like that. When you film like this, you'll see on the timeline, there's a big black flat box there and there. And that's
Okay.
really irritating. You use it if you've got archival footage or old footage or something that doesn't fit, but you should by rule film like that. And actually you don't really have an issue with size, because if you step back and you just work with your wide, medium and close-up angles, you get everything in shot. Do you all understand what wide, medium and close-up are?
You can go over it, please. Yeah.
A wide shot is contextual, so it's just like the village you're in, you know, like the chickens walking across the large path in the village. The medium is like kind of, let's just say from here's a medium shot on me, okay. A close-up is here, and then ultra close-up can be like if you take like a 200mm lens and you go and look at, like, try and do a macro shot of just the wrinkles around the eyes. So you can do ultra close-up for like emotive. That's very beautiful as well. But these are all things that you can practice beforehand with the right lenses. And with a mixture of those things plus a drone shot, if you want to carry a drone, you've got a lot of variation of shots. You can even take you know, a GoPro and do some time lapses, and that's a different type of shot there. You can even hook your GoPro up to your car on the way, so you can kind of show the journey if that's the kind of thing you're going for. So there are a lot of things that you can do to create production value, or you could just shoot with one camera or one phone and just be creative with your shots and move around. It's not like you have to have a lot of kit. That's the point of this. You don't need a lot of kit. The most thing is the story.
Hello.
Hello.
Could you go over the time coding thing again?
Yes.
I mean, I've been filming for a long time and using Final Cut, but I never bother with time coding. I don't even know how to do it. And when you were speaking, I kind of missed what you were saying. Could you explain it again? When would you use time coding and how to do it?
I would use time coding when it's a foreign language and I don't know what they say. So I now know that in 1 minute and 11, my mother took me to the shop. On 1 minute 15, she dropped me off yesterday. On 1 minute 20, my father then came. So in these cases, I know the parts that they've said that's in a foreign language. I would use time coding in everything. I use time coding in everything. Like I go to Inkscribe, which is a free software, INQSCRIBE. You just keep renew it. You don't have to subscribe. You just, and then I use the time code on, I just macro it on the computer and I time code everything, because I would like to know the parts that I'm using and not. And for me, instead of wasting time like here, I just go straight into practical. I get the entire script, even in English or my language. And then I see in this part, he talks about when he was shot in the head. In this part, he talks about when his daughter came back with a baby. And then I know already, like, this part is this summary, this part is this summary. Maybe I want to move this part here. So I take everything with the time code and I move it. So my script starts to look colorful with subject matters and, you know, bright pink about the summary, bright yellow about the trauma with the brother. And it's all different times because he says it later, he says it in the beginning. And then I start to hack the whole conversation into a kind of story that I like, that works for me. So I use time code in this way to manipulate the whole script as well. Yeah, it's fine to record the meeting. Okay, well, okay, we've got 15 minutes left or we might get booted off. If nobody's got any more questions, I was thinking that next week we can maybe talk about something of you guys' choice if you found any value to this. So you could let me know what you want to talk about.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry. How do you go on with getting permission? So if your film is shown anywhere, or do you actually have to get any written permission from your?
Absolutely, you do. You can download a disclaimer thing called, good question, it's called I'll put it on here. You can get an app on your phone. You can just download an app, £7. And that is the one that I think the industry, you've got to read a little bit because there are a few, but that one's fine. And that one's got everything up to date. And what you can do is get them to fill that out, ask some questions, their name, their age, their date of birth, everything. And then you fill it out and then you get them to sign it and you have a witness there. And that acts as a disclaimer. And you will have to do that with anyone that shows their face in your projects. Otherwise, you can blur the face out in post-production if you had to.
Sure. Thanks.
If anyone wants to know about a website, Tribe's on my site, but most of the stuff I've done is just following subjects. So our website is Plasm, P-L-A-S, put it in here, plasmproductions.com. It's not letting me send this message.
How do you spell it?
plasmproductions.com. I can't put it in the chat. I'm really bad with this one. To everyone in meeting. Oh, thank you. What I mean, if we don't get kicked off, what's everybody working on? What's everybody's interest? Tell me something. We have 15 minutes.
Holiday footage.
Holiday footage, existing footage, turning it into a story.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Would you do voiceover, your own voiceover?
Yeah, I do voiceover. So, for example, I went to China and toured around China, and then I do voiceover to explain what things are or give some little anecdotes given to me by the tourist guides, local anecdotes.
Lovely. And do you record so you just do B-roll with your voiceover? You never put yourself in it?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of the film, so I don't know what B-roll is.
Oh, it's just footage other than the main line of footage. So that's what I call it anyway. I mean, B-roll would just be maybe your holiday snaps.
Oh no, it's films mainly, because it's more lively, if you see what I mean.
Yes. And you put it on your YouTube channel?
Not yet, no. It's just on hard drive.
So most people are interested in creating their own projects for YouTube, or getting it maybe in film festivals, or like what's mostly the drive?
I mean, I would be interested in putting in YouTube and having my own website, but it's just that I don't know about background music and things like this. At the moment, I'm obviously things that I don't know as to whether I could put them online, because maybe it's not allowed. So
if you go to FMA,
right,
you can try to find some free, there's a lot of composers there and they'll do some collaborations with you. Okay. So you can go there and you can go to free music. That's Free Music Archive. There's another one. And you can download a lot of soundtracks there that are free that you can use.
So what is it called? FMA?
Yeah, I put it in there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And you can use what software do you use?
Power Director.
Sorry, what's that?
Power Director.
Power Director. Okay, is that for PC?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, does it have free music with it or not really?
Yeah, but not much, to be honest. You know,
I mean, if you use like, I mean, Final Cut or iMovie has some free stuff, mostly commercial. But there are, yeah, I mean, we can talk about the different options on that, or we can share that. I can share that on here as well for us. I'll share all the different resources that you can go to, and all the products that you need, links to the products that you need if you wanted to.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Is there anything particular that would like to be augmented? Like we talked about types of shots, we talked about subjects, storytelling. We talked about the travel kit itself. We talked about the questions. Someone
could I ask, is it unethical to record people a bit like street photography, you know, unawares?
To record people unawares?
To actually film people without asking them, is that completely unethical?
Well,
so that they don't change their behavior. I'm just thinking, you know,
you're talking about like a B-roll or a whole. You couldn't film a whole film without the subject knowing. You'd B-roll like you're filming, and then his daughter's cooking in the kitchen, and you want to capture her. Yeah,
more naturally rather than posed, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Well, I do it all the time. Do it all the time. You know what the bottom line here is, like, just people being happy, and so sharing your product with them and showing them after, maybe offering them some stills or offering them a link to where they are, or crediting them, saying thank you for that's what they like. You know, people like to be recognized and not taken advantage of. So because, you know, I'm not talking about war zone or going into, like, you know, gorillas in the mountains where you know, you shouldn't even be there filming. I mean, that's a different story. Like, if you want to do something like that, it's possible too, but I'm just talking about like a nice uplifting film, cultural, kind of interesting film, so you're not doing much harm there. What else is everybody doing? Brendan, what are you doing? Are you a photographer, filmmaker?
I've done a lot of kind of just collecting footage, but I haven't ever sort of put it into production or kind of thought of it from like the point of view of sort of showcasing it. So now I've recently been kind of getting more interested in that, and I kind of I've been looking at the kind of footage that I've been putting together already and just sort of working out what my next steps are going to be in that sense. But
what kind of footage do you have? What kind of
so previously it's always been, I suppose, to show kind of like things that are kind of hypocritical within something like conservative societies. But it's some is kind of interview, some is just people talking about their experiences.
Lovely.
On their own.
There's always so much stuff we get in our lives. We're super busy, and if we're opportunistic with the camera, or we're like, oh my god, that's so interesting, let me just put my camera up and then can you talk, or let me just run around with this mic behind you for 2 seconds. I mean, if you collect that stuff, you've just got such a body of stuff to work with. So I always say, like, it's no point being in the mind too much. Like, the mind has a lot of stuff that's not real, and, you know, a lot of fears and a lot of stuff that doesn't. You've just got to go ahead and do it and be opportunistic, and then figure it out after. And don't worry too much about making script or anything. You just do, you know, exactly what you're doing. You're seeing beautiful ideas, beautiful opportunities, you're collecting them, you're putting them in this box, and then you're going to pull them out, maybe now, maybe in 10 years, and you're going to have this amazing stuff to work with. There's just certain rules like stability and sound quality and things like that, But, you know, apart from that, you can actually enjoy yourself, because the worst thing is go on holiday and then the whole holiday is just like, you want to make this film and everything's based on that. And you just forget all about the holiday, the place you're in. You don't care about the people. You're just like throwing stuff in. And it's like, you want to be the moment as well. You want to be part of the experience, and you don't want to be just limiting to like this script, I've got to do it. And, you know, so that's where it's a little bit different, where I'm saying we don't need to make a script. We just have to have a general idea. And the most beautiful thing is just embodying that moment, having a really wonderful time with people, making friends, and then getting something after as well. Thanks for sharing, by the way, about your what you're working on, Brendan. Okay, so I guess 3 more minutes. I don't know. It says Mandy isn't here. Karina, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you do, Karina?
I've been working on short films, but only as an amateur with the filmmaking group.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm kind of interested in nature filming, like filming animals and stuff like that.
Do you want to start making your own stuff?
Yeah, I'd like to. I need to get all the kit and everything though, so this has been helpful for that.
I'm going to definitely share on here for all of us all the stuff I've got, and then we can just carry on, you know, from those parts, because obviously the more stuff I put out for you, then the more questions you guys will have. Thanks for sharing that, Karina, sorry. Mandy, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, Mandy. Yes, I
Hello.
can hear you. Do you have
Hello,
any
everyone.
questions, Mandy? What do you do?
I don't have any question. Right now, I have my YouTube channel, but it's all about my personal experience, like a vlog or just like talk show, something like that. But I like to try to make some short film after the COVID-19.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely. Please, everybody, if they could share their stuff on our group. Don't be shy about anything. There's no like, you know, it's all about sharing. There's zero like interest in judging. It's just about sharing ideas, and everybody brings something to the table. Everybody, like people that have never done any of this before have insights, and it's not about labeling, about being a filmmaker or being good at this and that. You know, it's not about that. Thank you, Mandy. So
thank you.
Did we talk about how to capture sound? Okay, so Lenik.
Yes.
Yes.
Lenik.
I mean, you would just put a muffler on your audio. Really, that's the only option these days. You know, when you're in like a mad wind situation, you try not to be. You really, if you're doing an interview, you try to be in a soundproofed area, or an area that's like got as little. I mean, that clip really does capture stuff. That lavalier pointed at the mouth is really powerful. You know, you won't see your camera sound will hear one thing, and then you pick up your lav sound and it's so good. You know, all the background stuff is miles away. So that's why you go for the lav version. But if you want to avoid that windy situation, I mean, just have that muffler. I think they call it a cat. I forget, it's a really weird name. It's I don't know. It's just a muffler that you cover your sound kit with. I'm talking about if you're on a boom pole, for example, but if you're just with the lavalier, they do have the mufflers on them as well.
I'm using a mobile phone, to be honest with you, to record now.
Okay, so when you say that, you hold the phone like this?
More or less, yeah, on a stick. And I've had lots of problems because, so in Shanghai, I'm talking, but there's so much wind that even with the software afterwards, it was really difficult to get a good quality sound.
Right. Yeah, is it like, what phone are you using?
Yeah, that's it, really. At the time, it was Huawei, what was that?
Huawei, yeah.
Yeah, Honor 30 or something.
Yeah. You know, like the stuff in this, I mean, this one's kind of, I've never tried it. It's like the Sony Xperia. They're supposed to be like, you know, I mean, Apple's supposed to be the best one, but this one's got stuff going on. I mean, it's just the thing inside here is not the same as the thing inside here.
Right.
And I know it's an extra headache because you then have to go like that and tie it up, or you have to be like that on a stick, or you have to put, you know, or you have to be quick, but it's so frustrating when you're in edit and you listen to
Oh,
it's white noise. That's what you're listening to. And it's so frustrating. You literally have to create another sound channel of like music because it's so annoying.
It's a headache.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Really.
So this thing's so light. It's £100 on Amazon. So, you know.
What's it called?
It's the
I'm gonna type it.
H1N.
Are you going to type it in the notes?
Red cat, thank you. Let's see what it's called. Look at me. I'm such a good H1N Zoom. I went for the Zoom 5 and I just was like, no way. I mean, that's got and it's got different captures at the bottom, like XLR captures, and that's good for something. But did I answer that? Do you need permission from the council? Oh, listen, I had to take a film down. I've linked the film I had to take down because I think I can still link it. But I shot and the subject was like, oh, it's fine where we're shooting. Anyway, because it was about the dairy industry and it wasn't that great, you know, obviously they had something to talk about. But even if it was drone shots, they were still saying that footage could, you know, I basically didn't ask permission. I didn't get permission. I trusted the subject, and that was stupid. That, you know, you will be in trouble, especially if it's something that isn't so positive, then you will be in trouble. Of course, you do need permission anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's kind of why I haven't published any of my films, like about it, you know, around Egypt or around China. It's because I don't know. I've filmed so many people as well.
If there's no, if there's
Yeah.
no label or something like that, just go for it. You can always blur those things out. If you're, I mean, you're China's sensitive, eh? Like, you know, it's okay if it stays on a YouTube. You know, you should see some of the stuff they're talking about with Chinese this and that, and I mean, it's all on YouTube. Sometimes it's too big for them to do anything, but if it starts to go into festivals or become like commercial, you cannot, you have to be careful, because, you know, like Burma's the same, like, but if it's like, you know, somewhere not like that, it doesn't matter. You just got to scratch out brands, or you've got to make it, you film where it's not that obvious. So don't be too worried about that. Don't let that stop you. Just that the subject I was doing was negative about dairy farms, and it was on a dairy farm. And actually, if I just give it to the animator to render that into cartoon, they can't say anything. So, but that's expensive, and you wouldn't do that unless, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do. It's a good question. You do. It's really tempting, and these days there are sensitivities, but don't let that stop you from doing stuff. There's always a way around it. It's 1 o'clock, right? Time to go. Thanks everybody. I'm really glad that you guys all came. It's lovely to meet you all. Didn't get to talk to everyone. I'm going to do another one. It would be nice to put down specific questions, each of you, and share what you're doing, and just share with the rest of this group everything that, you know, you want to get from this and what you're doing, so that I can give as much, so you can just get the best from this. Okay. Now we're in lockdown, so, you know, in England anyway, so it's like, what else have we got to do? So all right, thank you everybody, and I will catch you on the group. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Really interesting.
Bye.
Bye bye.